That's what I think.
I'm trying to get the cameras going here. They're going to work.
So my question, though, was it humid and hot there or what?
No, the high was like 84 today. It was not that warm.
Wow.
We'll talk about the ride we did go on.
It was 100 today.
It was here. It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I was down here all day,
Ooh.
freaking out about being a teacher.
Have they made the announcement yet?
Yeah, they did. It's going to be kind of a... We don't have any online listeners yet, and I haven't hit record yet. Oh. It's going to be kind of a hybrid thing, but the maximum we're going to have, it's like cohorts. They're breaking the students into cohorts, so the maximum you're going to have at any given point in time in your classroom is about 8.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's all fine and dandy, but how the hell am I supposed to... Yeah, I don't
know.
It's just frustrating. It's very frustrating.
It's got to stop. Stop it!
Hey! Quit. You guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good, because we're recording. I mean it this time. Hey, before we begin, it's time for the regular pre-roll mention of our good friends of the podcast. Big shout out to Gooder Sunglasses, the best value for your eyes, style, and smile. I come up with these slogans every time. They don't send me this stuff. No. Just released all new Mach G's, super cool style. These shades, and this is coming from them though. This is their slogan. These shades will make you feel like you're buzzing the tower in a fighter jet at 1,544 miles per hour. I just ordered a pair myself, and I cannot wait. I had a pair earlier, but like a true moron with gigantic feet, I stepped on them, and I broke them.
Did you?
I did. I broke them. I broke them on a camping trip, and they were the pre-release ones, and I stepped on them and broke them. And I was very sad.
Way to go, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, fuck yeah. And so I cannot wait. The good news is it was only $35 though. That stepping on my glasses. So someday I'm going to be like a true pro and just go, be climbing a hill and throw my glasses off, and somebody would be like, "Oh my God, that guy's so cool! He threw off his glasses." Not telling him that they only cost me $25. Name another thing in cycling that you can quickly replace for that cheap. Not many things, right? Tubes, stuff like that. But be sure and check out their line at gooder.com. Also, big thanks to Scratch Labs. Real ingredients that the body needs. Oh, and they friggin' powered the winner of the most recent Criterium Dauphiné. So check them out at scratchlabs.com. Let's do this. Technically, it's an Empty Nester podcast. It is. Because we both are.
Yeah.
You know what's weirding me out? I have my notes up on my screen, but my green light shows that Jackson can see me looking at the computer, reading my notes and drinking beer. It's kind of messed up.
All I'm seeing is you're just looking from the bifocal of your glasses.
You're really quiet, so try that again, Jackson.
All I can see from my end is you looking in the bifocal of your glasses.
So I'm looking up. So you're looking at my nose hair is what you're saying.
Party favors.
Exactly.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the podcast for all things two wheels. Sure, we talk about races that are hard to pronounce and riders that are even harder to pronounce, but we also talk about gear, beer, and cheer. I swear to God, these things just come to me and I write them down. In the studio with me is the man himself, the guy who was nowhere near a camera right now, and that's a good, safe thing. Let's welcome Mr. Paul Main. Paul, how are you?
Hello, Pat.
And on the phone is Nightwing himself. Pretty sure the only one who's writing consistently these days. How are you, dude?
I'm good. Yeah, in a different place, but I'm not gone.
Portland, Oregon. How many people, when you were telling them where you were going, told you to stay away from the riots?
Too many to count on both hands. Every call from a grandparent or a store clerk was saying, "Watch out for those riots." And then in my mind, I was thinking, well, thank you very much. I'm hoping to stay away.
Hey, on another note, no shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Jesus. Yeah. So just so everybody knows, yes, you're in Portland, Oregon, and the entire town is not aflame. No. So you guys, let's start fluffy. It has been, to say there's a little bit going on in the world of cycling, can we all agree would be one of the biggest fucking understatements of the year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start fluffy. What is there to train for now? The dog days of summer are here. This is usually the time of year when you've had a pretty good race calendar in you, or you've trained for your big event and you've completed it and things like that. And now you kind of just start to slip a little bit going. And then some asshole says cross is coming and all that kind of stuff. But we haven't had a whole lot to train for anyway. Is there anything left on the horizon for anybody in this circle of conversation? Paul? You're like, shit.
I was thinking about that.
I'm going to go find that camera.
Yeah. I was going to head out that way, but I didn't. But on Sunday's ride, I was thinking, I wonder if the Coeur d'Alene Grand Fonda is still going to happen. Have you heard?
It is, but it is, I think it is a
virtual
DIY thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
We could do that. We could make up our own.
I think I'd have to.
So
look
they
it
won't
up.
need an announcer.
No, they don't need an announcer, which technically means I could write it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So let me look it up.
So that's all I was thinking. I was thinking that's usually the second to last week in September.
Yeah.
It's
that's
not too far away. I have to look to see what race I'd be missing on TV. If it's worth it.
So let me see. I'm clicking on. It says September 19th, 2020. That's
September 19th. Okay.
Yeah.
There's any race.
There's race
Tour
information.
de France goes. That's the second to last day of Tour de France on the 19th.
Packet pickup, socially distant pickup, drive-through style. September 18th. Pasta feed pending. Might be canceled. 19th. What's that, Jay?
I was gonna say the pasta feed might take a little bit.
Plenty of sneeze guards. Start times with social distance protocol. Grand Fondo starts at 7:20. Medio, Piccolo. They have the full distances. I bet there's not a huge celebration at the finish, or they're cheating on me and they found somebody else that has a younger, hipper.
I'm sorry, I brought that up.
Is better shaped than me and looks better.
And doesn't call it the Ube tubes.
The Ube tubes, Uber tubers,
and the used tubes.
Yeah, Jackson, do you have anything left to look forward to in your young life? Is this it?
This is exactly what I'm sitting with. Where I'm sitting right now is what I'm expecting for the rest of my life. No, but I think today on my ride, I was thinking, man, time to get ready for Zwift races. The way things are going. But I've got on my mind, hopefully next summer or some sort of early to late spring type of races. I'm in training mode now. I'm thinking I got to go next year. I got to think big.
Really? So you and I chatted a little bit about it, and I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot by mentioning this, but about like you've talked about and I don't want to say the alternative calendar, even though I say the alternative calendar. You've always kind of found yourself attracted to those style of rides or races, and that we talked about, dude, it's time to just start putting your name into the lottery. Can we get any pre-2021 commitments from you, or are you just too much into this, I don't know, school and grades and graduation and fucking stupid stuff like that?
Exactly. I don't know. I would love the opportunity to do it, but like you were just saying, school's kind of been a big thing that kind of takes things over. If I had some time in the summer, which I hopefully do, I'd love to do those things. Like I've always said, I think like a Kanza or a Belgian waffle would be something that's kind of interesting. But we could put our names in the hat and see what happens. So to answer your question, that's a hard maybe.
Kids these days, they can't commit. I'm sitting here thinking about what to do. I didn't think about that Coeur de Fondo. Now that they probably don't have a big finish line celebration, I could probably ride it.
Didn't they?
Yeah, I could technically ride it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to think about that. Do I want to? How much? I don't know. How much is it?
God, I don't know. $80, $90, I think it was.
It's got me thinking about it, but it's also.
But is it going to be that expensive if there's no party afterwards?
I doubt it. I'm trying to. It's weird looking shit up while I'm
$1 a mile.
Yeah. Registration fee includes packet pickup. This is really bad podcast technique when I don't really technically have my information down and I'm trying to find it as I'm looking. I don't know. So Isaac and the people behind the Court of Fondo, let us know what the plan is, and I will brag that up on the next show. If we're not too busy talking about, I don't know, a little 3-week jaunt around France. I personally am trying to think of ways to keep going. I stood on the scale today, and I gained a pound this weekend, even though Jackson and I did a pretty ugly ride. But I did eat at McDonald's twice this weekend.
Oh.
I ate at McDonald's twice this weekend, and I'm still trying to get over it. I just don't have the pipes that those kids do, and they can eat it and just be like, I'm good. Took a shit an hour later, and everything's fine. So I'm still feeling that, but I want to get down below 200. I want to get that. So I got 5 technical pounds to go. When I say technical, I mean 6. But so I'd like to do that, and I'd like to, like you said, Jackson, I'd like to kind of carry it through and see where we can go with this. So in other words, none of us really have anything, is what we're saying.
No, I don't.
Shit. Okay. Well, then, with that being such an incredibly dominating intro to the show, let's start with the news, shall we? This has been the week to. This has just been 2020 continuing on in the cycling world. Let's start with the body count, shall we? The body count. For those of you paying attention to road cycling and the fact that the UCI calendar and the World Tour has continued, you'd be really excited. And I saw a meme the other day, which was just a complete trash picture of Goldie Hawn staring at a laptop. And Goldie Hawn was great. It still is great at just her. She's completely worn out. She's staring at a computer. And the meme caption was me after watching 25 races in a row online. And I think she said, I need some help. And that's what it has been. So for those of us watching bike races, it's been great. For those of us who care about bike racers, it's been an absolute shit show. And to start with Remco Evenepoel crashing into what they call a low wall at the top of a bridge, flung over the side, falling about 30 feet into a deep ravine with about 55K remaining in the Lombardia, fractured his pelvis. And I've received multiple different terms describing the lung damage, he said. I've heard punctured, I've heard lacerated, I've heard injured, things like that. But something's wrong with one of his lungs. The diagnosis is 6 weeks, very likely bed rest. In other words, 2020 is over. And in other words, also, hey, guess who must have picked him to win a Lombardia?
We all did, though.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm taking blame for it.
All right.
And I'm not going to pick. I'm going Costanza on the next races. I'm just going to pick people who I don't really care for and just see what happens. And everything will be great. So also on top of that, I'm truly sorry for Remco Evenepoel. I'm so happy that he's going to be okay. And I'm sure everybody echoes that statement. On top of that, Max Schachmann from Bora Hansgrohe hit by a car, or did he hit the car? Go.
She was not part of the race.
Yeah.
She got onto the course, and he was trying to, I think, pass on the left, and she, cut. Yeah. I think she might have realized, kind of looking at it,
not to
she
be
realized,
sexist, but was it a she?
Yes, it was an older lady, and she
okay.
looked quite, very sad.
Oh, yeah.
What she did.
Horrified.
Yeah, she felt terrible. But, yeah, and so cut in front of him, and he hit the back end of the car. Yeah.
I heard it ended up pretty poorly, too, for his physical state as well.
Yeah, broken collarbone.
Collarbone, yeah.
Still finished, got up and finished.
I have 2 questions for that. Number one, what the hell's going on with the UCI where we have these instances? We have horrible barriers at the Tour of Poland. We have what I understood are some really, really shitty course designs and really dangerous conditions. But that's my first question. And my second question is, watching these races throughout my entire life, how the hell hasn't this happened more often? It's not like the entire course is roped off.
You're talking about the car.
People could back out into the road at any given point in time.
Now, I've heard Italy has probably the worst when it comes to pro races as controlling traffic and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Or road furniture, it's not well marked, or any kind of protection. I just heard that like in the last couple of weeks as people chat about it. Of the bigger nation. I mean, I'm sure if there's like the Ronde van Palouse didn't probably do a very good job of marking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as a pro race, there's they're not very good. In the Tour, they have little signs they put up, like symbolizing road furniture, that type of thing.
The gendarmes with the arrow flags going beep,
yeah,
beep.
Yeah, and they do, and they have signs prior to. But if you read any race rules and USAC and also UCI, it is up to the racer, and I agree with this, to know your course. You got to. With Remco, his situation is he studied that course. He knew that corner was there. He just was trying to follow the wrong wheel, which was Nibali, who knows really how to descend. So, I mean, that's part of racing. Here's my take on everything. Part of racing is descending also. I mean, that race has been going, Lombardy has been going, I think, 1906. They've been using those same roads. Some people do get hurt on that. But anyway, yeah. It's terrible. You don't want to see it. And I was watching it live when it happened, and I'm like, I think that's Remco. I was telling Dismount, I think that's Remco. And, of course, somebody went off the...
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was.
I will say something I did see today on... I was watching, like, a racing news show, and that bridge that Remco went over was pretty notorious for crashes throughout the years. And something that Dan Martin tweeted on, obviously, Twitter, he said, he goes, that bridge every year.
Really?
Which to me almost seems like, I don't like, yes, I do see like the tradition there with keeping it in the same roads, but we also, I guess, have to keep in mind like the safety of these riders, like the example when it comes to the Tour of Poland, like that downhill finish and with the barriers being so weak and him just blowing them apart, it's like yes, you do need to know your course, and I very much agree with that, but at the same time I think we also need to take into consideration like what these riders could eventually like end up as. And with Remco and I forget his name, Tour of Poland rider
Jakobsen. Yeah.
It's just, I guess we're kind of seeing like we're seeing what can't, like the worst case scenario, of course, but I think we also just need consideration.
I think what I said to you, Jackson, I think when we were on our ride was think about the early stages of the tour where you're usually prone to so many more crashes because you've got so many people so amped up and so anxious about getting a result. Because most people in the tour know that, hey, in 2.5 weeks, I'm going to be completely shredded. My team isn't going to be around, and we got to get these results. We got to get something to give us our budget justification for the next year, or me a contract for next year, something like that. I think this season is that mentality. We're finally at a season. We've got, 90, 100, 120 days tops, not even that, to get this entire season over with. If I don't get my results, I'm not putting food on my plate, on my table for the year. My contract's up at the end of this year. Holy shit, I got to go. And I think all these guys are just going balls out. Now, that could be number one of my theoretical excuses. Number two is because they haven't raced, that they might be just a little off their game. Am I being an asshole by saying one of the top pros in the world might not be 100% on top of their game? And I'm not blaming Evenepoel, at all.
Well, I think you're onto something there, but I mean, we could bring it back to like if you think about even local racing, how people are sketchy at first. You train if you train in a group, which these guys, most of them haven't been training in a group. The only time they've been training with is by themselves, depending on what country they're in. And it doesn't matter how much experience you have. You start doing those speeds, and everybody knows race speed's faster than whatever you can do on a training, especially solo.
Yeah.
Now you got centimeters of space between bars. And in my take on it, it's great with all this new technology. These bikes are bloody fast. They brake really well. They do. I mean, everything's on top of it. That means our speeds are higher. So crashes are not as benign as they used to be because the speeds have increased, on descents. In the heyday, think about Modolo speedy brakes.
Hey, I still got a set of those, man.
They should not be on a bike. They should not be on a bike.
Those cork pads were so cool looking.
They were cool looking. That's
really
what people bought
squeaky,
them.
though.
Yeah. It didn't stop. But, that's I think we got several things. And that's, I don't know about you, but later in the season when you're racing, your mind slows way down. Your speeds, doing crits and you're pushing, 27 to 30 miles an hour and stuff, and you're hitting corners and you're bumping. Your mind's so slow at that. I mean, it's like walking at that time. The beginning of the, at that period, you do it so often. The beginning of the season, it's that first initial in the corner, 27, 30 miles an hour, and you hit somebody and you get that little, And I think we might be experiencing that even with pros. And, because think about it, these guys haven't raced, some of them since March.
Yeah.
So, and it is a contract month.
Yeah.
August 1st is where the contracts are opened up.
So we've got Evenepoel. We've got Max Schachmann down. We've got Primoz Roglic, who was leading the Dauphiné. Pretty bad crash. Looked like some sort of a mild concussion in my book. The way he was dazed, the way he sat down in his team car for a second, and then immediately kind of snapped out of it, got up and rode off on his bike. And I'm going to just list even more. Nairo Quintana dropped out of the last stage because of knee problems. Egan Bernal, back problems. Froome and Thomas, who knows what problems. And who am I missing? Oh, Kreiswick, who I also picked for. I picked Bernal, Kreiswick, and Rodzic.
For the sake of cycling, no more picking for you.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't pick any more riders because I'm just going to hurt them. I'm like, what's the final destination or whatever the hell that movie is? It's just like, if you get to know me, you're dead. I'm the Ring of picks. Like, I'm trying to find a more movie. It's not working out. What are we looking at here? It's holy shit. I mean, I think either this is the time of a gigantic transformation, or it's just going to be a year that we just put a perpetual asterisk next to that, just because nothing counts. It's like, oh yeah, all that shit. Well, that doesn't count because it was 2020 and everything was just so fucked up that year. But okay, I want to ask you guys about all those riders here as we get going here. But Daniel Martinez for EF First drank his scratch like a good boy, and not the prettiest win I've ever seen, but a win just the same. Consistency pays off, I guess. So what do we take away from this race? I guess, and I know we did have the classic, a big race, but Dauphiné just kind of was this precursor to bigger things to come. And what do we take away from this? So do I classify it in terms of the individual riders, or do I start with, for example, Jumbo-Visma, from unstoppable to holy shit, we got punched in the nuts here over the course of 5 days. We're the greatest team, and then all of a sudden we lose Kreiswick, we lose Rodzic to a crash. Anyway, go. Somebody go.
Well, think about the two powerhouses in the early stages. It was Jumbo-Visma and Ineos kind of race, and then neither one of them had a guy finish in the top 10. Think about that. I mean, Sepp Kuss was able to be free of rain. He had free reins to go for a stage race, and he did that, calculated that really well. I thought he did a good job.
Was so impressed
Yeah,
by Sepp Kuss.
that was a good move. You know, and with Bernal pulling out because of the back, he actually rode the stage that day, the same stage he pulled out on, behind the bus and everything else. So
no, I did not.
yeah.
Okay.
So he continued. I think it was to the point where everybody's playing this. Is winning the Dauphiné really that important for Roglic or Ineos? I think a lot of people tapered back. Okay, now we know where we're at, where we need to work on. We got 2 weeks, that type of thing. Not everybody who wins the Dauphiné does well in the Tour, but a lot of Tour winners who win the Dauphiné. This is an unusual year.
Yeah.
So, like the last one, Talansky, he won the Dauphiné, and he didn't really have a very good Tour that year.
He crashed though pretty hard, didn't he, that year?
Yeah. In a sprint, he was tangling with the sprinters.
Oh wow!
Yeah, in a breakaway. Yeah.
Ineos, is this okay? Ineos, were they just as they say? Were they just coming off a hard training block, so they were all tired? Were they putting on some sort of a pulling their punches, pretending not to be fit, pretending not to be strong? Is this all shadow boxing and dramatic effect? Go, Jackson. Yeah, what do you think about what's going on with the biggest budgeted team in the world?
I think we are seeing the effects of a very rushed season. I mean, obviously, all of this is happening in what you said, 190 days. But I also think that I don't know if Ineos was very concerned about the Dauphiné. It's kind of what it seemed like to me. They seemed like they were very willing to try their best, and if it didn't work, it didn't really matter. And which was interesting because it seemed like Jumbo-Visma took it in a completely different way. They seemed like they were willing to show what they can do, and I think they did. And I think one thing that really was interesting to me, and I just kind of thought about this, was that with Roglic dropping out and Sepp Kuss was able to win that stage, to me that shows the depth that Jumbo-Visma have. That they have, two of our team leaders have dropped out, so let's just send Sepp up the road and hope he wins. And then he does. So I don't know, I think that shows a good future for Jumbo-Visma, and I think it has a little wake-up call for Ineos, that they can't kind of rest on their laurels a little bit. They almost have to they got to look towards the future. Thomas and Froome, unfortunately, aren't 20-something anymore. I'm not saying they're over the hill, but
that hurts.
But I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of an eye opener for Ineos, that they are no longer top dog.
Is that what we think is going to happen in 2 weeks? I don't want to stray too far into the future because that's kind of notes I have later on in the show. But this is kind of the preview of coming attractions that we're seeing here. And we also none of us are mentioning the fact that Tom Dumoulin, who's a Giro winner and a TDF podium finisher, is a friggin' stud, is riding well.
Yeah, over 400 days he hasn't raced, and that was
but that just means Jumbo-Visma's depth is even more. The biggest thing that broke my heart is Kruijswijk, because I think on paper they look absolutely flawless.
Mm-hmm.
Ineos, I don't know. I heard the quote of Geraint Thomas talking about, I only need to lose a kilo and then I'm going to be a lot faster. Froome, you didn't hear anything from. And I think you always say it best, Paul. Yours is like, what are his numbers?
Mm-hmm.
If his numbers were great, the team would be talking differently. What do we predict in terms of that team, in terms of those teams, 10 days from now?
I think Ineos' problem, and one of the things I brought up a couple of times is Nico Portal, who died. That was their calm in the storm.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that after they kind of lost the grip a little bit in the Dauphiné, Bernal says, we're just gonna calm down. He used the word calm, which everybody, when they describe Portal, is like he got everybody, because you got these, I can imagine egos and high intense thoroughbreds, and they need somebody to just bring them down. And I think that's what Ineos, in my opinion, is going to be missing, his leadership, and that's a big thing. I think a lot of people don't put in directors as part of a solution. You can have as many top ranked riders, or even I'll use the LA Lakers when they had Moses Malone and Gary Payton and Shaq and Kobe Bryant, and they couldn't win the championship. They had the best, talent wise, on a team. They couldn't, and talent doesn't always. You always need that calm in the storm.
I see more arguing and fighting on that team in this year's tour than in the 1986 La Vie Claire team. And I know I probably lost half of our listeners who have no idea what I'm talking about. Look it up. Go watch the Greg LeMond-Bernardino duel. I see more in fighting in that team than, I might even say, Movistar of the last decade.
Yeah.
Because those guys were always fighting with each other. It's just like, attack now, no, yeah.
It's interesting because it's like we do see this tension within the team of Ineos, but then when we kind of cross the road a little bit to Jumbo-Visma, it's like they somehow everything works out with all of the great riders they have. Everything somehow comes together, which is a pretty interesting thing to see.
Yeah, for an example, I hate saying that, but Wolfpack, that's one thing that
I was going to use those words.
Yeah.
That was on the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, those guys, there is tons of talent on that team, and they're all for one. You got to have that on a team, no matter what your talent is. And I think sometimes that trumps talent if you have a well-oiled machine.
Okay, so if you had to pick a tour team leader for the following teams, who would you pick? We don't know who's going to be on what teams. Mm-hmm. We don't know until probably a week from yesterday, 24th, I think, is what we're looking at. If you had to pick a team leader for Ineos, who would it be, and who are your support riders? Jackson, you want to go first?
I think for Ineos, I think their leader and their best choice is probably going to be Bernal. And I think
back is fine. We're assuming the back is fine.
Yes. And then I think I hope they both Chris Froome and Thomas to the tour to ride for him. But big egos bring big situations. So we'll see what happens.
Paul?
No, I would agree, but I would not have Froome in the equation. I don't think he's going to go to the tour. I don't think his numbers have been probably hitting the mark for them. They need somebody like, what's his name? The Russian rider who on the last stage crash. I can't remember. He's Pavlov, starts with an S. Anyway, microphone amnesia again.
Yeah.
But that guy is got to be on their team. He's certainly the backup, I would think. Geraint Thomas has a tendency to be whatever role he's in, he's willing to put in. I don't think Chris Froome has ever shown, if Bernal's going well, or even when Thomas was winning, it was all about Froome. And even when it was before Froome was winning, when it was Wiggins, I don't think they don't have room for somebody like that on the team. They need as many people to back up whoever's leader. So I think he's off.
You don't think he's going to be?
No, I don't think he's going to be picked. Yep.
Man, that's I agree with you, but I think that's a total kick in the nuts for Chris Froome. A current 4-time Tour winner, still racing. His experience alone would probably benefit the squad.
So if you're a Brailsford, you would pick him just for that?
I probably would. But then again, he's leaving. And maybe there's a little pettiness involved, and somebody's going to say, screw you, man.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're leaving us. Yeah, good luck with Israel next year. And so I don't know. How about Jumbo-Visma? What are their prospects? We saw a week ago, I don't know about you guys, a week ago I said, that's it. There is going to be one of those guys on the top step of the podium.
Mm-hmm.
They are just unbelievable unless they completely all crash each other out in a team time trial or something like that. Yeah, I don't even know if there is a team time trial.
Nope.
I haven't looked. There isn't. Okay, so how about that the squad? What do we see from them? Who would you pick as your tour team leader for that squad? And I know most of you are going to probably say the same thing. Paul, you can go first.
Roglic and then Dumoulin second.
Jackson.
I'd probably say, Roglic is going to be. I think Roglic is going to be the tour winner, not to get too far into the future. And then I also think Dumoulin and their backup is going to be if Kruijswijk is fine, then I think they'll be there, but he will be the backup. But yeah, I think Roglic, Dumoulin, and Sepp Kuss always on Roglic's wheels. So
yeah, Kruijswijk won't be there, from what I understand. That's it. He's not going to line up. So unfortunately, they're one man down, which is a huge guy down. But
third place at one point in the tour.
Yeah, weakens them, but I don't think it weakens them so insanely. No. Any other like holy shit riders you've seen that might out of nowhere be like, okay, this could be a dark horse. This could be somebody I think might do something incredible. For example, I'm really glad I didn't pick Thibaut Pinot to do well in the Dauphiné because he had a good race. And he showed good signs of somebody who could have a good race.
I think, EF now could be some sort of dark horse. I think somebody like Danny Martinez, or even, and I've been throwing this name around a lot lately, but Sergio Higuita.
Yeah.
Jonathan Vaughters has been talking about him a lot. He's a very young Colombian. But I think those two names could be up near the top 10 maybe, he won the Dauphiné out of the best scenario possible, but I think EF could be a very dark horse team. And I was also surprised to see Martin up there as well in third place from Cofidis.
Guillaume, yeah.
So I think that those two kind of, or I guess three names could be some sort of dark horses to look out for.
I've never been a fan of Cofidis. I've never really liked many of them. And you know what might stem from my days of loving Lance Armstrong. I said his name. Back in the days when I was cheering for him and he got cancer and Cofidis dropped him and, I've always kind of hated that squad because
on their
of it.
part, though.
Well, no, they dropped him after his diagnosis.
Yeah.
And,
but I said with the trash that he brought down, but they had their own problems. That didn't really work.
Yeah, that's exactly. So I don't know. Oh, hey, let's look at the point standing, shall we? How were we before Dauphiné and before Lombardia? Refresh my memories. I expect you had 3. Jackson had
2.
I had 2.
I had 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shocker. So I want to say that I picked Bernal, Roglic, and Yates for the Dauphiné, which means I'm walking away with Dick. I'm walking away with nothing. Paul, who'd you pick?
Roglic and Bernal, and I think I had Buchmann, who crashed out.
Yeah. Jackson, 0. Jackson, who'd you pick for Dauphiné?
I picked Roglic to win, Bernal for second place, and Dumoulin for third.
We're just picking names. They can pick anything. You don't have to pick specific places. But Roglic, Bernal, and Dumoulin.
Dumoulin was in the top. No, he wasn't in the top 10, but he
wasn't.
No.
And I think we're only awarding points for top 3.
Yeah.
Where that I don't want to do all these writing down. And I expect you guys to remember your own points. Yeah. And for the listeners, I expect you guys to remember your own points. So I'm not going to tabulate results like I had to for the Packfiller Classic. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Everything's being mailed out this week. I'm sorry. I need to get paid first. Lombardia. I picked Evenepoel, and I thought that was a shoe-in, and then I realized I am truly an asshole. I am the dark lord of picking cyclists. I picked Michael Matthews. I don't think he was in there anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked Van der Poel, who rode really bravely trying to catch the break, but it didn't work out. So I'm still with a big donut hole. Jackson, who'd you pick? Actually, no, Jackson, let's have you go last.
Okay.
Paul,
Remco.
who'd you pick?
Remco crashed out. And then I had Schachmann, who ran into the back of a car.
No.
So who's the Charlie Brown now?
Yeah.
And then Michael Woods, who ended up being a turd. So
Yeah.
0.
Jackson, just out of curiosity, in very specific order, who did you pick?
I picked Mathieu Van der Poel.
Yeah. Who rode a brave race, put on a brave face. He's a strong little soldier.
Exactly. I picked Max Schachmann, so as Paul said, who unfortunately hit a car.
Some lady needed to get her groceries. And
Yeah.
said, hey, I'm going to back up now. That's my
Like
only
Kermit.
Italiana voice. It's my Italian Kermit. I'm going to do an Italian woman right now. Old Italian woman. Hey, I'm going to back up now. Hi-ya! So, sorry. Anyway, and who else you picked, Jackson?
And certainly last but not least, I picked Jakob Fuglsang.
Bastard. When you did pick him, I knew that was a good choice.
What?
That really was. That was a good choice.
Yeah, that was a good choice. So, Jackson, I think 3 points is what you get for a win. So what's your total right now?
I've got 5 points.
Jackson with 5, Paul with 3, me with...
Wah, wah, wah.
Do I have that? I don't even think I have that. I just give it a...
Yeah.
I have diddly squat. Okay. So we look forward to the future. We're about we're a little over a week and a half away from the tour actually starting, because this weekend is all national championships except the United States. So we're screwed because we're the country of selfish bricks and won't put on masks. Sorry, I got political there. So we've got a little bit of time, and we are not. I'm not making any of us have to actually pick a tour winner right now. We don't have to do that yet. But I do want to say that our good friend Brent Soderberg was so proactive, and a big friend of the show and a big friend of ours from the old days and things like that, put together a Tour de France Fantasy League for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if everybody who listens to this show wants to get involved, you could go to fantasy.latour.fr. fantasy.latour.fr to join the league. And I will say this, but I'll probably post it on social media too, because I don't do well with numbers when I'm listening to them. The league is number 12531, 12531, also known as Packfiller. Who would have thought? So if you go there, you join in the league, you can get in on the challenge, you can be a part of it with us and see how absolutely terrible I am, but I think Paul might be worse at this. So you get to join in that league, and you can be a part of it with all of us. It is free. There was a quiz today that I think they do like a daily quiz, and you get more points to buy riders with or something like that. And some of them was like, okay, who won the 1958 Tour? Who won the 1958 Tour? You probably know this.
I have to think about it. I don't
Okay,
know. Yeah.
but there were some. I got a lot of those. It just I
Jean
didn't.
Concatil, I think it is.
No shit.
Mm-hmm. It might be. It was 59 or 58. Yeah.
Jesus. Some of them were, and I got a lot of them right, but I got like 7 out of 10 because I didn't know perchance who won the green jersey in 2002 or something like that. I was like, God, was it Zabel? Was it another Zabel one or something like that? But So there you go. So get in on the challenge if you want to be involved with it. Once again, fantasy.latour.fr. Join League 12531, which is also known as Packfiller. Last of our news topics before I get into our little discussion I want to have with you guys today is that AG2R or AG Desert continues to build, signing Lillian Kalamajan and Bob Jungels for next year. Bob Jungels coming from the Wolfpack, leaving the Wolfpack, going to a French team with brown shorts.
But they're changing to Citron, I think.
Are they really?
I think so.
That's they're not going to be AG Desert?
I think they're going to be
Citron?
I think so. I think that's who.
Whoa!
Or Citron might be a sister one, so then kit might change.
Heard it here first.
I think so.
No
I could be terribly wrong, and everybody's going, oh, "He's such an idiot."
Yeah, fuck you. Heard it from here first, and they won't be wearing the brown shorts, which makes me think of Deadpool every time I hear it.
I don't know what that is.
No, you probably don't, because you're not a superhero nerd.
No.
Gentlemen, before I get to the actual discussion and our just a little fun kind of topic before we finish off the podcast, I have to say something very important. 2020 has been the year of things happening that are completely out of your control, but there is one thing you control, and that's shaving your bush. Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to remind you to do that very thing. If you have not tried it out, the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 is a premium electric trimmer designed to give you confidence to boost your thorough body image. I'm just thinking about that. I'm not bashing Manscaped, but I don't walk around with my junk hanging out everywhere to show off my body image.
Well, you're showing it off to the people that you care to show off to.
Those intimate moments.
Like shape it into an arrow or a Batman figure. I'm assuming that gives you that strength.
Batman. Shit, that's
there
good.
There you go. Yeah.
That is really good. And they've... What, Jay?
I was going to say, now that I'm in Portland, I hear they have some selective beaches, so I might have to go up and be like, in case you're wondering, this is Manscaped.
Yeah. Shave the logo into your junk. There is also all kinds of other stuff they offer. The Shears 2.0, a 4-piece nail kit featuring tempered stainless steel tools, and it includes tip tweezers, rounded point scissors, fingernail clippers, and medium grit nail file. I don't know about you, but if I let my nails get a little too long, they dig into my cycling shoes, and it hurts like hell, especially the little pinky one. I almost look like a cocaine dealer when my tiny little pinky toenail gets too long. It's just
with your toe.
Go to manscaped.com and check out some of these life-changing products. In fact, listeners to this show are getting 20% off plus free shipping. 20% off and free shipping using the code PFP at manscaped.com. That's 20% free shipping, manscaped.com.
Have another drink.
It's a terrible read. And use code PFP. That is P as in pack, F as in filler, and P as in podcast. It's time to grab 2020 by the horns by shaving that front trunk. Thank you to those guys. I love their copy. Yeah. I hope they keep changing it.
Yeah.
And I don't pre-read it because I think it's fun to just grab it and read and go, wait, what? Are they talking about balls? Yes, they are. And Jackson, you said a good one today on your little video you sent us, and it made me sad as a father.
I laughed.
You gonna say what you said?
I said, well, I was making a video because I was out on a ride today, and of course I was by myself, unfortunately. But I stopped at the top of this climb and I said, God, I love making ball jokes about Manscaped, right? And then I continued to laugh and look around, and I was like, guys, oh, right. And then I waved. I was all alone.
All alone. Gentlemen, I want to talk a little bit of our topic about technology. Hype versus reality. And I know that, especially online, not online, via text, we as a group have been having a very, very in-depth discussion with everybody. Got a glass? Roger? Jackson just drank the last of his cider. I saw that. Paul rolled his eyes.
Someday he'll be drinking the real stuff.
Did you drink really good shit in college, though?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, there was a little place here in Spokane. It's called Spokane Grape and Grain.
Yeah.
And I would buy a 6-pack of whatever foreign beer I could, and I just would drink.
Wow.
Because it was before microbrews and
Well,
now craft brews.
I'm coming from the sweetest sodas in the world, so I'm taking it one step at a time.
He's
I
baby
know.
stepping.
I like bashing you, but to each their own.
Paul,
You wussy.
you elitist prick.
No. I just like what I like.
Yeah, it's just really expensive, and I judge you for not. So there are a lot of great things that have happened to the sport in terms of technological advancements. I believe we can all agree with that. And I was saying earlier about what we've been talking about through text through Roger, and I said his name. I was just repeating it. You don't have to drink again.
I am.
Okay. Was that we were talking about the pros and cons of tubeless tires. I listened to another cycling podcast on my way to Portland the other day. And I listened to another cycling podcast. It took a lot for me, but it did. And they talked in depth about tire choice. And of course, this disc versus rim brakes. We are not the only ones apparently talking about this out there. I guess not. I mean, I've been in my little NBA bubble here for so long, and I didn't know. But I'd like to ask you guys, in terms of things that have happened over your time period, maybe even more recently, 3 things in your life surrounding this activity in this sport. Doesn't have to be exact, but you would consider fantastic, and 3 that you would consider flops. While you think, I will give you my examples because I obviously knew this was going to be the topic beforehand, so I'll jump in. So I will say my 3 things that I consider to be fantastic evolutions in technology in the sport. Number 1 would be my evolution of bike designs, especially the gravel bike realm. I think that's been really cool. It's been a huge thing for the sport, especially in terms of e-bikes. I think it's been, yes, some people bash it, but I'm not going to ride them, but I think they've been huge. The second one that I think is fantastic is the creation of things like Strava, where we're able to monitor our performance and compete against others or compete against ourselves. Third thing I would say would be smart trainers. And Paul's probably going to hate me for that because, but a trainer where you get more intense and realistic, as close as you can get simulations. And I haven't even talked about. I didn't include Zwift in that, so I won't include Zwift in that. Now the flops, I would say number 1, biggest flop in my personal world in dealing with the sport has been non-alcoholic beer.
Who could argue that?
Without a doubt. I have yet to taste a non-alcoholic beer that doesn't taste like
kissing your sister.
So my second one flop would be the concept of one bike to rule them all. You see this in a lot of reviews and a lot of articles where people are talking about this gravel bike can do every surface. And then I hop on my road bike and I'm bullshit. And then I hop on my mountain bike and I'm bullshit. That's not true. I don't think there can or ever will be one bike to rule them all. And the third thing I would say would be a flop, and this is a partial joke, so although I'm the host of this show and you can jump down my throat if you want to, I think fat bikes have been a flop. I don't think they've turned out to be what the fat bike industry hoped they would have been. This gigantic boom, this huge, everybody wants one. And I don't know why I used that voice, but I did. So those are my 3, and I said those things, and you guys can comment on them, and if you agree or disagree, please do so. But if you have your own, chime in.
I don't really have any gripes with kind of what you've been saying. I think if I were to create or think of like some pros or like things that have not flopped, I think one would be in kind of conjunction with what you were saying about Strava. I think GPS bike computers.
Oh yeah,
such as Wahoo's, Garmin's, all the other brands out there. I think those things have Dad, you and I were talking about it the other day. Those things have put us on roads that we never thought we could have found.
Absolutely. We did a ride in Portland this weekend, the two of us, that you found via YouTube, right?
Yeah, original YouTube.
And then you were able to track it and bring and load it to your computer, and then we did this, and it was a hard ride. It was a beautiful ride. If we did 3,500 feet of climbing in less than 45 miles, and it was a hard ride. But you're right. Without these devices, we never would have found that.
Yeah, and then I think my next two, my first one would be the evolution of how saddles have gone. I think I have found that the regular mold of a long nose, skinny with no cutouts and kind of a skinny backing to it, I think is personally, I mean, everybody has a different type of fit. I know that Paul likes to run a long and skinny kind of traditional saddle, but I have found something that is very kind of short and wide, which is really good for me. And I have a cutout in the middle of it, and I think that's something that kind of changes the game. And then I think lastly, and I'm 21, so this is allowed. I think the discoveries of what kind of like, and I've been very much discovering this, is like the healing powers of like, and I know I'm gonna sound hippie-ish here, but CBD. We've been experimenting, or not experimenting, but using.
It's experimenting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're
Man.
Trial and error, bro.
But with some CBD from Floyd's of Leadville, and it has, like I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I had some reoccurring knee pain, and that stuff has immediately shored it right up. And it's crazy the results that have kind of come from that. I've felt much better with it.
And maybe we say on a side note that we found a couple places in Portland that say they are Floyd's stores. And we found one near my hotel, which was in Sketchy City, Oregon. And I say Sketchy City.
Were there rioters?
No, there weren't rioters, but it was like industrial, and it was a little sketch. And then we find this place, and it's got a Floyd's banner out front. And we walked in, and what did we see, Jackson?
No Floyd's.
Nothing to do with Floyd's. In fact, I looked at the guy behind the counter. I said, "Do you guys have anything under the Floyd's name?" And he looked back, and this woman, I think it was a woman in the back room, just said this. "No, we don't carry that stuff anymore." And I was like,
Did you hear this sound before?
We don't carry that. We don't carry that, man. No, it was, yeah, and I was like, wow, I was kind of that you could get the stuff, and I don't mean the stuff, man, but I mean that you would be able to go and get CBD. This, like I said, Jackson, we bought that lotion, which is, and I talked about it during the classic. My hips were horrible, and I felt way better. So, no, I agree with you. That's a good advancement. So those, you got your three fantastics.
Yeah, I think my one and only flop that I can really think of at the moment is, and of course I would say this, but aero bars on gravel bikes. I just can't get behind it for some weird reason. And yeah, I think that's my one and only con.
That's almost an elitist statement. You do know the apple is not falling far from the tree. You're becoming one of us. You're just going to judge people because, hey man, those are arm warmers with your sleeveless jersey. It's kind of the equivalent.
I guess I'm not saying that, like, if I see you have a gravel bike with aero bars, you can't ride near me, or I'm not going to respect you. It's a thing that I don't prefer.
It's okay. Backtrack. What is fine? That's fine. No, you coward.
Oh, I actually have one more.
Oh.
And I think, Dad, you might agree with this, is unadjustable seat posts.
He's making fun of my bike.
Yeah.
A full carbon frame with the seat post. You know what? I'm oh my God. I'm going to agree with you. I love the stiffness of that bike. But if I get this, I can't adjust the seat post if I'm off by a tiny bit. And who am I going to resell the bike to? Somebody exactly my measurements? That doesn't exist. Nobody else has that short of legs and that long of a torso. Nobody else is that fucked up. That's a good point. Okay, Paul, fantastics and flops.
Well, I'm going to go back. To me, when you see something that is really a good technology in bicycling, it doesn't take any persuasion. There's never a battle. And the first one that comes to mind is clipless pedals. If you ever rode
you're
with
going way back.
But think about it. Even the variations of it. If you ever rode with toe clips and straps, my feet would be like no circulation at the end of a 80-degree day, and it's terrible. That was terrible. That hardly had anybody fighting. You had a few people like Sean Kelly, and a few people who were on the twilight of their years. But that was easy convince.
Sean Kelly's top tube was also about 3 centimeters too short, and his saddle was at least a centimeter too low.
But he won.
Yeah,
so
worked.
Who's going to argue?
Yeah.
The other one is, of course, Shimano created the STI, the brake lever, shift lever combination. Huge.
Definitely.
Yeah, no one's going to fight that. Those are the type of technologies that who can argue? You know, which one's better between those two?
No.
If you ever rode with, you could still ride with down tube shifters and stuff like that, but to me, to put on toe clips and straps and try and race like Andy Palmer did on that.
Oh, that was impressive.
That is impressive. So I'm trying to think of a third one. I would say carbon frames were huge. I mean, that's easy, although the early stages I wasn't convinced, but I think they started figuring it out. My biggest takeaway on the negative side is the industry as a whole. Yeah, flops. Industry in a whole, when they come up with something and they keep cramming it down our throat, when it's not ready or whether it's not a good idea. Biopace. That was a huge thing. I
basically placed the proverbial golf ball on the tee and handed you the club here. I'm waiting for you to say one particular technology.
Well, I'm not convinced. There's two of them that I bash quite a bit. Well, one more than the other. Yeah. I think sometimes what works really well in other disciplines like mountain bikes, gravel bikes, i.e. disc brakes and tubeless tires, who can argue? But in this situation, it's not, at this point in time, the technology hasn't caught up to the point where it's I'm not convinced. And I think you were referring to Roger's conversation.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of to me, it's like when I see a problem, when you see what happened to Roger, somebody, it's not pilot error. There was something went wrong. There was a burping, and he had 80 pounds PSI on those wheels. I mean, everything was right. Burping is not excused. Now, you can roll a tubular. I've blown a clincher at 45 miles an hour on the downhill front one. Yeah. It's not a good it's not a good situation. But as I stated in the last one, when you seat a tire that's a clincher and you have a tube in it, you can almost, it's tactile. You can see what's going on, and also you can visually see, tactile seeing, putting it on. There's no pinch tube or anything. It's a done deal. You glue on a tubular. You know how much glue's on there and stuff. But when you dump in, and you're running 80 PSI, the wider the rim, as soon as they start getting wider rims and wider tires. Yeah. But we're still in that infancy stage of tubeless. I'm not totally sold on the idea. And the other one is disc brakes. And I don't know. What frustrated me with disc brakes was everybody says they're so much better than rim brakes. They are in the wet without a doubt, but they're not the huge advantage that we were sold on.
I will say this, and on my mountain bike and on my gravel bike, I would never go anywhere
without
else.
A doubt. Same with tubeless.
Worlds better. I don't, I haven't had a situation on my road bike where I've needed to grab that much brake. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm lucky. I think your point is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're talking about this is really good technology, and it is on its way to being great technology. But the industry finds this technology, shoves it down our throats so deeply that we have no choice but to go with it. We buy a bike, it comes off the floor tubeless.
Yeah, I don't know how many, because I haven't been selling bikes for a while. But, I mean, I built frames. I worked at a bike shop. I've gone to trade shows, that type of thing. Technologies come and go. But, yeah, you're right. The thing is sometimes the industry has so much money tied into this developing this technology, they have to just go with it and a marketing scheme and get us involved.
Yeah.
And I think we're all going to be on electronic shifting at some point in time.
Fuck.
I really do. It's just, I mean, it does make sense, but it's not cost effective. You start looking at these bikes. I can't replace my bike. I was just thinking about it. If I crash my bike, I'm screwed. One, I'm on a mechanical. I got rim brakes. To replace my BMC to what it is now, it's a $11,000 bike. I'm not going to spend that much money on a bike. I don't have the resource. It's getting ridiculous. This technology is pushed. That's hurt road biking quite a bit, in my opinion. Is this big goal to make money and I like technology, but I don't believe in cramming it down your throat. And I'm getting a little long-winded, but when pro cycling, when I got into it, a lot of riders had preferences on saddles and wheels and they called it blackout. They used to black out, so if they weren't sponsored, that was it. And everybody respected it. The journalists respected it. And then all of a sudden it got to where we are today. You look for somebody not riding what they're sponsored, and everybody spins the negative off of that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a saddle, like Nibali loves physique saddles, but he has to black out his saddle, and he rides Bontrager. I don't know if he might be on a Bontrager now, but before he had to black out all his stuff. And some riders, are forced to ride disc brakes when they don't like them. That it has been said. And there's some that want to be on disc brakes and they're on rim brakes. So the industry, it's good that they're involved with cycling on the pro level. And then there's some negative too, because I think it's, what wins on Sunday sells on Monday, and I understand the logic. But yeah, the big negative is a bunch of them is, unfortunately, money is the big push.
Jackson, on another perspective, is this a gigantic candy store? Are you 100% tubeless? Are you 100% rim brakes? Are you 100% all this new stuff just because it's new and it's your generation of where you haven't known any different?
I think when it comes to tubeless, I'm a little on the fence. It's just something that I don't understand, and I take full credit for that. I also do think, though, that and I wrote about this in my blog post a little while ago, that I love to see innovation and I love to see the new things that kind of come. So yeah, I love to see all these new things. I also will say that when it comes to disc brakes, today when I was out on my ride, I was descending and I felt like I couldn't slow myself down enough. And I know that if I were to, this is my personal opinion, but if I were to take to like a disc brake on my road bike, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with what I was doing. And like I said, that's just me. But yeah, I love to see these new things. I think electronic shifting is something that is very, very, it's kind of cool. I do think that it's definitely expensive. But hell, we're in cycling, everything is. So yeah, I guess to take a long way to get to answering your question, yeah, I think it's all cool. I think it's all really cool. I think I'd take it if I was given it right now. Hell yeah, I would.
Yeah. I think what I just love about that is hearing the perspectives of generational concepts where, it's this is it. It's the newest thing. It's coming up. It's going to be great. And it's going, well, this shit always worked. And, I can still downhill super fast. And, so it's always interesting to kind of get those multi-generational perspectives. I'm okay. I'm kind of on the fence with where Paul is, because I'm looking at my bike in the other room, and I'm going, God, if I have to replace that, I can't. There's nothing on a new bike I can transfer that stuff over to, unless I just bought a raw frame. But I don't even know if they're going to have brake mounts for it anymore. So everything I have is going to stay on that bike. So that's it, brand new bike, and that sucks.
Well, I forge my opinion based on what I like to do, and that's local races and state races. And I mentioned to an old teammate of mine about what I didn't like about disc brakes is like wheel changes. And he goes, when have you ever, were able to get back in a race with a wheel change? Because with disc, it doesn't matter. You can talk to anybody. If you don't have that disc brake, there's a good chance that it's going to rub at some point in time, grabbing somebody like the old days. The old days when you grab somebody's wheels in, wheels out, a rear wheel, they were all spaced together. Now you can say Shimano, Campy, whatever. Yeah, I mean, bang, bang, bang. Now there's different disc sizes. They're starting to standardize that. But even within teams, I've heard like pro teams have to file down and get just a millimeter off to get them lined up. They're never totally perfect between different sets of wheels. There's too much variance, and there's not much clearance in there. So on pro teams, they just get a new bike.
Yeah.
Amateur racing, can you imagine a nightmare? I mean, I travel. I travel 2 times a year to the west side, and I get a flat. And I get a good wheel change, but it's brakes rubbing or it's the wrong side. I mean, it's a nightmare. Yeah, it's a limited, probably 1% or less than 1% of the population fall into that. But that's how it affects me. I don't like that.
With gravel and with mountain, you're usually
repairing
most of the time repairing your own. Yeah, so it is going to have that effect. So
I will also, sorry,
no,
I will also say, kind of on that note, I mean, and I'm taking this from my perspective when it comes to racing. I know me and how I am a current college student, and that if I do race and I flat, that's it. You know what I mean? I unfortunately don't have another wheel set.
Yeah.
Like even with my rim brakes right now, it's if I flat, that's it. I don't have another set of wheels. So it's almost like, I don't know, my bike is kind of what I've got at the moment. Not to say that, Paul, what you were saying is completely incorrect. It's just like, from my perspective at least, I won't have that other set of wheels that I could swap out if I do get a flat.
Yeah. But see, there's the thing. You're on a team. This is a team sport, not an individual. And my wheels were the same for any of my teammates. They could use my wheel. Yeah. And if we were racing the same group, which we were planning on, you would be able to use my wheels.
But not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I mean, that's when things were simple with rim brakes. You could use anybody's wheel, and it didn't matter if it was wheels in, wheels out. I would bring in my wheels and say, "This is for Packfiller's Rive team," and if you got a flat, then you'd use my wheels. So now it's complicated.
Yeah. You know what's the funny thing is I actually wanted to delve deeper and talk about tire pressures, but I think that might be a topic in itself because I know very little. I thought I knew a lot about all this stuff, but I'm still got my head in the old school where I'm going, you get on a road bike, you pump your tires up to 100 pounds.
Never did.
You get on a mountain bike, you pump your tires up to 100 pounds. No, I'm kidding. But I still really overfill my mountain and gravel tires because I fill them until they're so hard that you can't press pressed down onto them. And you know, I know people are thinking this guy is a host of a podcast where he claims to know what he's talking about. And the guy's putting 50 pounds into his mountain bike tires. What a stupid asshole. Okay, fine. But I would love to be able to talk at length about that, because Jackson, you and I have that conversation every time. And I think you've in a very clandestine style, reached over and let air out of my tires before we started rides.
Yeah, one of our rides, I felt your pressure, and it was probably a good 80 to 90, and I put it all the way down to 30 pounds. So
I don't want to pinch flat, even though I'm on tubeless on some of these bikes. So I don't know.
You're a fool.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, is what I am. So, all right, you guys, this time next week, we are picking Tour de France teams, which means not only we're picking Tour de France, but we're picking our if you guys are cool with signing up for the fantasy league, so we can pick all the riders we've got, even though we might have to get a little picky in terms of the Packfiller competition versus the fantasy, because with our Packfiller competition, we only get 3 riders, but with the Latour, I think we get to pick a whole team. I haven't looked at it yet, but I think you get to pick your sprinters, your domestique, your climber, your leader, your moto man, your soigneur, you know, things like that. So, but there we can do that. And for everybody who listens to the show, fantasy.latour.fr, join the league 12-5-31, 125-31, or 125-31. I don't know how many ways can I chunk the name so you might figure it out, or just look up Packfiller and you're probably going to find it. Thanks for Brent for putting that together. You guys, Jackson, you get some riding in, man. You're taking computer classes online all the time because your school's completely shut down, so you got time to ride, right?
Exactly. I'll be out on the roads filling my time with, unfortunately, because I'm in Portland, I'll be filling my bike with grit and washing my kit a lot, so I'll be getting out there.
There you go. Stay away from the riots.
No.
And I sent you with a GoPro, so I'm saying this on the show that you are now forced to provide regular content for me to edit.
Yes, for all the listeners.
Exactly.
On the horizon, my face will be on your screen, hopefully.
And it won't just be old farts, me and Paul trying to figure shit out. And by the way, Paul, before I do sign off, I do want to say that I have purchased new GoPros. My wife doesn't listen to this show, so I can say this out loud. The new GoPros I've purchased, I actually found a function on both of them that is the Find My GoPro.
Really?
And you flip a little switch and it goes beep, 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 beep.
Oh,
why didn't I know that existed when we were standing in a field of cheatgrass?
I will find it after harvest, because they got to cut down all the wheat.
It'll look like when I was a kid. I remember I used to buck bales, and a snake would occasionally get caught in a harvester and be in the bale. It would be the bale, and you'd grab it and you go, "It's gross, snake," and that's going to be gross. GoPro. All right, but we're going to get content. We're going to get more content. So you guys think about who you're going to pick, and it's time. It's time to rock. I hate the fact that we have a week off. Technically. That are you guys going to watch any of the national championships?
Yeah, there's no worlds this year.
Well, Tuscany has put in a bid.
Okay,
I understand. Tuscany has put in a bid. Come on, Tuscany.
Yeah.
But so you're not going to watch it.
Well, after you see how Italy controls the roads, let's see how that turns out.
First person to make it through a grocery store parking lot wins worlds. Hey, I want to go to get the Morgianti. Fuck, that was terrible. If you like the podcast, well, not this one. If you like the podcast, like and subscribe. If you have something to comment on, do so on our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, or just send me an email, for crying out loud. Big thanks to all our sponsors, and thanks to you guys for sticking with us. The numbers have gone up especially since Packfiller, the classic, and welcome everybody. Stick with us. It's going to be a fun season. There we go. Hit stop on that. Got to hit stop on this.
On
Hit
the
stop
vid.
on that. Stop vid. Okay, I gotta hit that first. Then I hit that. And then stop and complete. Then I hit stop and complete.